Hello and welcome everybody to another Niche Nation membership of the Full Moon series. Today we are chiming in on our November full moon. It is the 15th of 2024, and it is important that this is our very last super moon of the ending of our 2024 year, which is crazy because we were slammed with four major supermoons at this year end. So that is why everybody is feeling like, what in the God's creation was this year fully, truly about? So thank you all so much for understanding that this is now time for your journeys to really make a difference. There's some big themes and keys that are going to be unveiled for today. So if any of you are processing this, please make note, and then we will dive into a discussion afterwards. Now, many of you have seen through these moons and these teachings that we journey through a teaching name of our moons. Now, the biggest thing that we see with our moons is that they come with all different titles. So as we journeyed through our year, you have seen why every different culture, nation, and creation has been giving a name specific to the season of its full moon. So for today's moon, we are calling it the Beaver moon. This is a very important time as many traditions and cultures have a very big call at this moon at this time. It is one of the last full moons that is right before a major season change, and it is important to allow ourselves to know that there is a big winter, a big season. As people process this expansion in their winter months from the fall, it is very clear to people that if you are knowing the old folklores or the tales or the teachings of land keepers, that it is based on how big the beavers or the muskrats build their huts. It is going to show you how harsh or severe of a winter. So it is important at this time that the beaver is now processing his den of working its supply. It's working on what are we going to have enough to capture our own safety for the winter. Now, it's important that as we're working through this full moon, there's a big ask in what are you prepared for? So if you want to write that question down, what are you prepared for, is a big theme for this year coming up. Other names of this moon are also called the frost moon. This is where a major setting in of the frost is happening at this time. This is also called the trading moon. This is where in the old days, this was where people were knowing as soon as this November moon would happen, it is time to get our ducks in the row and to figure out what did we have enough in our arsenal or our packages of things that we've gathered, collected, harvested, and knowing what should be available for us in the winter. Is it really something useful, or is it something that we need to go back and really dive in deeper to find something else that should be more pertinent or important for us to have in our winter survival? It's also called the dying grass moon. And at this time, this is where animals, humans, everybody is now realizing that this season is now here. So this is where many of our last medicines, our existence that we needed for our fall harvest is now no longer available. We will wait till then, our next season for winter, the different medicines are available to start harvesting at this time. But this is a very almost kind of like sensitive or raw stage of the moons, because as this time there's big mourning, there is big awareness to what did we achieve or not achieve throughout the year. So a lot of people are feeling very exhausted, overwhelmed, overpressured, underpressured, and not feeling like they really got maybe to capture the year that they wanted, or they did and it was a lot of work and now they're feeling that major burnout. So it's okay to see, as you're processing these different layers at this time, to really understand that this is also called the mourning moon. Now, when we are sad or grieving an experience, it is important to understand that you have had full capacity to do what you could at this time, And now this is where it's for you to combat that shame, the guilt, the fears, the sadness, um, the not loyal expression to what we thought we needed to do, and really coming back into our values and virtues to really see what are we actually here to do? What are we actually meant to save and be discussing in these deeper discoveries in winter? As we're hibernating, this will show you what you will be preparing for yourself for next year. So that is kind of the different experiences that we have with naming moons. And that is why all cultures have different practices. And that's why we love to share and showcase the different experiences of all nations as we are journeying through this. Because truthfully, in our hemisphere, it is actually a very warm and hot season in our other brother and sister nations down south of us, versus us coming into a very cold and dark season. So it is so funny how we have such a counteractive or a different a contrast in how we are existing in life. And I really wanted to bring that up today because a lot of people, when they are struggling at this season now, it is important for you maybe to just start to discover what you actually need in your space. Are you actually meant to be where you're asked or where you have landed? Do you actually need more sun? Do you actually need more cold or winter? Do you need more adventure or expansion in these seasons? So it's something important for everybody to look into for this year, when they're journeying through their winter season, is really asking, like, how important are my season changes? Because as we are processing this, it's really asking for us to figure out what is our true soul's authentic harmony and balance. This moon is asking for you to discover your definitions of harmony and balance. Now, the gift of why we are here in the Northern Hemisphere is to understand a deeper connection to our nature. What happens is that we see such instant death. We are, if those of you who are farmers or are acreage owners or things like that, when you start to see that the winter happens, you're starting to realize how sometimes you get caught with your pants down. You're having water lines freezing, you're having water bowls not working, you have food for and shelter and bedding for animals that should have been there, but you don't have it out yet, because sometimes it's a learning expansion for you to realize what extra work now do I have in this season, but yet it's a very different pace compared to our springs and summers and our falls, because this winter really is asking you to know what is very crucial at this time, because then you usually have a very small window to deal with the problem at hand, versus where we have it in the summer or different situations in the warmer seasons, you might actually kind of prolong that or drag it on. So now winter really shows you what is in action and the problem that you need to deal with at this very moment and second. So if you're starting to see that you're dealing with a lot of things urgently, that is the reasoning why you're having that emotion right now. Now, as we are going through that in that discovery of nature, it is important that the beaver totem is asking for you to realize what hard work do you put in, but where has it all gone? Where have you put all of this building, this gathering, this damming? You know, these are very intricate architects that are in our nature, that they are able to stop massive watersheds of lakes or rivers or creeks from either drying up or actually making flow and movement. They are a huge piece to our landscape to really discover how are we able to keep up with something that is so massive, that usually takes teams and crews, where it is just a single beaver or a little family of them that are building such chaos or actual beauty to create something that needs to be dealt with. Now remember, the beaver is very fucking selfish. They are there for themselves. If they need water, they build it up. If they need food, they take it down. They know that at the end of this winter, if they've got to get their butts out of their huts in the middle of winter and start foraging for things that aren't even there because the trees have no more sap or water in the branches, or it's harder for them to actually get the nutrient dense skin and the bark off of the trees. So it's a lot of awareness that they know what the hell they need in order for them to survive. So sometimes it's very important teaching that the beaver is just like teaching us a little bit more of self-awareness. Okay. This time is about big self-awareness. How much time and energy are you always affording to everybody else's bullshit? To put it lightly. The beaver also teaches us about tangible manifestation, one stick at a time, one tail slap of mud at a time. As they start to build this up, you start to see over the time, and especially those who have been out in the wilderness a lot, you go for a hike or a walk, or you're going past your pastures, and you see a little bit of like some beaver sign in the area. You come back a week later, there's massive progression on it. And so you must realize that sometimes the stick by stick and the consistency that we do will start showing up results bigger and quicker than maybe sometimes just being a little bit more, I don't want to necessarily say lazy, but it's over optimistic that one day this will change. One stick at a time, one tailful of mud at a time. And something for that to be really aware of for next year, because we are no longer in the building season of it anymore. You have to start dealing with what you have now set up for your season, and now you're going to have to survive through the winter with it. So what did you create in all of this time? What awareness, what guidance, what hints, what things have been showing you through this process of the fall? What has been telling you, shining you, giving you light to your dark moments or shadows or illusions that you now are needing to realize that this has light to it, and now I have to realize that either keep it or I exit it. Because if we don't patch up the things that are in our hut, then you're losing all that vibrant nutrition and that food and that storage that you thought you would have to survive on. And now you're starting to see we're not even at the end of November, and some people are now dealing with some heavy decisions that they need to pack up or square out beforehand, because then you have to sit in this existence that you've created for the winter. And that's sometimes harsh and scary, but that is the energy of winter. Winter is not for the faint or the weak. We were gifted with a very light winter last year, and what has been in predictions is that we have a very harsh winter coming forward. So it is important, as we're journeying through those layers, to really navigate through what is the truth in that existence moving forward, and having that respect as we are nurturing who we need to be at this time, and having more capacity for what we really need to be aware of for this winter, if that makes sense. Okay. So now with that, it is important that we really understand and see what our season changes impact us beyond our roots. It is an instinct. This was gifted and bred into us. So as people are dealing with these changes, your soul and your struggles are deeply connected to all of what we exist in. So if you are feeling that this is just something that cannot continue anymore, it's really important to listen to that, because your ancestors have been asking for you to be listening to that awareness, and it's your choice and your guidance if you are going to gift that opportunity forward, or you will leave it for another generation behind to deal with it at the end of it. So it's kind of it's a little bit of an oxymoron, where it's just dealing with like, oh, I should be the one who deals with it, but then we don't. And then we have so much pain, because when we're such a people pleaser, we're not wanting to hurt people, and then we end up hurting people. So that's kind of the oxy in it all. So at this time, it's very important to take that reflection over renewal awareness. So understanding what have you been reflecting on and understanding how will you bring renewal into this. As we're approaching the winter season, we understand that this is the season of death. This is a season of no longer existing in those patterns, and they freeze to the exact moment that they are at. So it's important to know that as you're journeying through this winter, to really understand what are you going to renew? What are you going to give life to? What are kind of the things that if any of you had to survive through very like cold situations or something bad happening to you, you need to have something to focus on. If you always say that, oh my God, I'm going to die, it's not going to happen, it's not going to be good, you're not preparing yourself in a very safe survivalistic way. You are creating a very big energy drain and suck on you. So you need something to focus on. If you didn't prepare yourself properly this winter, knowing what are you going to set as tangible manifestations and actions for next year. You can start doing some work in this current time, but it's very slow. It's more meditation, it's more stretching, it's more kind of diving in deeper within self reflections so that you have the abilities to really know what the hell you're going to spring into for the next season. You are going to be dealing with a lot of big aha moments in this winter. So it is important to understand what is the ripple effect, because as we're starting to deal with the ice freezing on our lakes, there is lots of movement available for those who have big inputs and outputs in your space of holding water. So that makes ice very dangerous and very thin. So be cautious on who you're allowing to skate out on that thin ice, because they truly are not meant to be in those seasons and those spaces. Unless it's like a dugout where you know it's just one water in, it's what drains and rains into it for the full season, and then it freezes over top, and you know it's a good thick slice of ice that you can play around in. So really knowing the difference between, are you freezing your ripple moments and just knowing what you can actually glide upon, or are you actually a very dangerous intake that you have lots of movement underneath you, so you're not something to dance on my ice with. So just having a bit of awareness on that. So what I mean is that understanding that you are now having to deal with the emotions and the things that we thought we could continue to happen. And some of you will have those continuing things happen, and others are very frozen in that time. So you will feel that stubbornness or stuckness at this space. Another thing to really reflect on is understanding, what did I not need this year, and what will continue until next spring? Hence the rise to blossom, the rise cycle. So what we do every year in the Niche Nation is that we offer the chances to expand and work through our existences from our seasons that I feel are the most important, that really have the space to hold you in discovery. So that is our rise that we just had in September, and then we will have the blossom in our springtime in April. So those two seasons, spring and fall, are very important for our equinoxes, because that really is your time that you have the most energy and space and kind of resources to play around with. Versus our winter solstice and our summer solstice, it is either all light or all dark. So you don't really have a lot of gauge to work through those different layers. So that's why we have that awareness in those different seasons. So really understanding, what did I not shed? What did I not let go of? Because now we're trying to pack in a winter coat. We're gaining and having more things in our space right now for us to hold on to and have enough for next year. So we are going to be dealing with the overprotectiveness on the work that has been done all year long. Beavers are very territorial. They are not wanting you to fuck around in their space. If you are going to get close to them, they are slapping their tails and they are making it very evident that you are not welcome here. So it is something to understand, because the beaver knows that they have put a lot of energy and experience in that space. So it's sometimes hard for people to really know that why are they always being yelled at by family? Why are they being triggered from situations? Why are they not wanted at work? So sometimes we have to understand that we're not actually listening to other people's tail slaps when they're telling us to get the fuck out of their space. So, what are you then overprotecting or overdoing in other times and spaces that really are not for you to be a part of that existence? Because sometimes it's important that you are overprotecting wounds that are becoming very septic. And that's what I was talking about, the oxymoron of it. Then we start to actually really hurt people and wonder why are they sick or why are they dying? Because we're trying to overprotect it as a family. Now, beavers also work in very kind of anarchy structures, male, very dominant females, and then the babies. So it's really important to understand that everybody has a role and a resource that they are must be aware and dealing with. So if the beaver is not accounting for their offsprings that they've created through the year, they then might not have enough food, or they might not have enough space, or did not make the hut deep enough because maybe the water levels didn't happen properly this year. So their inlet is underneath their actual huts, their lodges, and that they have to have the ability to have access. But it has to create a vapor barrier between the water and the wind so that it's deep enough. So if it's not, then it's constantly drafting in, and then it creates big illness in their huts. So it's very important that there's a lot of work that is involved to really protect their families. And they also have a false door. So they also create in their lodges somewheres where animals, bears, cougars, coyotes, wolves, marmots, different things like that, they will try and create that illusion for them thinking that this is where their door access is, and they actually create such a boundary and a blocker of that door, because then they know that that's what's being kind of attacked from other animals that are predators. So they're very smart animals and very quick to swim, and they have also some very sacred properties, just like when we talk about the different totems of animals: deer, moose, elk, bison, birds, all of the different things that we work with our harvest energy with it, that there's many things that you can use on a beaver that create very valuable creation. So that's why there was this oversaturation of awareness of trapping, and what was the bloodshed over trapping, and what was the difference between what was sacred and what was not. So it's really understanding that it, as the beaver has been asking us to know the difference between what are you stewarding versus what are you just profiting over, just knowing what is the difference of your healing work. Are you profiting and becoming a very it's almost like saying that you know that this work is important, but then are you making over the layer and the money and the processing of this, or are you actually sacredly stewarding something that was gifted to teach you and expand with you? It's also important that as you're journeying through these next layers, you are here to do some very in-depth work moving forward. So they said to be sitting, no, thank you. To be sitting still, meditating on the 4 questions that you have for this season ending. It is important to have that nature connection, listening to what Mother Earth is trying to teach you, and especially at these bright seasons of the stars and our journey with our mother, our grandmother Moon. Father Sky has many things that it wants to share with you, but you have to be patient enough to just sit there and just watch. It is important, as this time is also to give thanks and also to honor ceremony and rituals that are being called to ask in your soul after sitting and meditating. Then it is important to create to have crafts and to work on that art that is important to your soul. So that is why there's many busy bees, as Em is doing now, crafting away. That you have the abilities to really express your soul after what you have seen through this journey. Another big thing is honoring fires or campfires, taking that time to offer tobacco and to make that connection and that commitment, really understanding how to heat up your soul when it is cold and it is dark. Fire is a very strong energy to help you kind of get out of those dark or those lack or those kind of moody moments. Fire will help give you vitality and energy back. Now, speaking on that, we are in the energy of the wood dragon. So it is important that the wood has stories. So in the time that you're collecting or harvesting wood at this season, the water is now seeping out of the trees, knowing that they will split and crack open if they hold the water up above in their branches and their limbs. So it's important that as the trees are draining, that this is a time where it's very dehydrated and that the wood has held its last story in that moment. So as you're connecting to the trees or burning wood, that tree has a story or something to share and offer with it. So it's important to have that awareness when you're burning fire, that it's a very sacred state and ritual to honor it. Bathing is very important at this time. So it's in bathing in the moonlight, bathing with water, bathing into silence, or bathing in journal discovery. The energy of our bodies being immersed into sound or music. These are the things that will help expand and really vibrate, connect, and kind of soothe and nurture ourselves when we're struggling in those darker seasons. As I stated before, that it's important to know that your body needs movement and stretching. So having the things that are going to talk to you, to your soul, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's walks, maybe it's sweats, maybe it's moving that energy back and forth to that journey, and understanding that as you have that movement, your soul needs that contraction and expansion. That's what creates us to have very stagnant energy throughout the winter sometimes. So it's important to expand into that horizon. And the other thing is about community. So this is a big time where you are seeing now all the craft fairs and the bake sales and our bingos that used to be happening and our dances and our concerts and our potlucks and our get together energy. This was truly the time that we would do that. Christmas actually was never a thing at the December time. They just started to see that a lot of people had nothing left in them at winter, and that was a time that usually people were begging to have something, food, a wish, a prayer. So they now have monetized Christmas so that you had the abilities to then overspend and maybe not pay attention to what were your resources and your huts. And that's what creates this ripple effect like I was talking about. So knowing how are you actually going to celebrate this year? How are you actually going to enhance love? Because it's not about the money, the stories, the gifts, all this other baggage. It's about how will you actually show up authentically and steward and maintain and keep your sacred teachings, medicines, offerings, gifts, and energy. So that's where, again, it comes back into this awareness of having massive gratitude equals abundance. The more gratitude you have of this experience so far will equal your abundance coming into the new year. So a big thing to be paying attention as this next 4 days is what I have predicted for the energy of this moon. You are going to be dealing with a lot of second guessing. You're going to be asking if I am enough. Is this enough? You're going to be dealing with a lot of the importance of resourcefulness. Preparation. and cooperation to face. Many people are struggling with their families, their four walls, and their homes right now because now we're starting to realize some of the things that we kind of kept up with the Joneses or just kept up in making excuses to say that this is going to get me through and it'll get better. But you must come to that awareness that these are things that people are showing you for a reason. So having the respect that you must not take it on as a reflection to yourself. That is what they are struggling with or in hurt and pain at this current time. So it is important to understand that you are enough, that they are enough, but you may not be the person that has to teach them that lesson or that layer or that expansion, because that is not where you have resources at this time. And that one I feel is very heavy on everybody's hearts right now as they're feeling that and hearing that discussion. The best thing that I can offer in the advice, as I am even currently going through that journey, is to understand that how do you think Creator, God, Ooga Booga, whoever you believe in, has set you up so far? Have they truly failed you in this existence? Or have you been just stubborn and a little bit of a spiteful teenager or a very scared inner child that has been lost and just trying to cling to something that isn't actually yours to have? You need to identify, where does this lack actually come from? Because as an adult, we understand that all things happen for a divine reason. So we need to honor the sacredness of why separation, why denial, why greed, why guilt, why shame and sadness is having these situations maybe sometimes ripped apart from us. Because there is obviously a better light, because we all wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case. So sometimes it's very hard for us to check our human egos and our pridefulness of just demanding things that should work because we've gone through very hard lives. That's where it comes into the ego and the things that struggled and put a huge amount of strain on existences between all nations, because everybody started to overtake things that they thought they had responsibility and rights to, where they didn't. That right is to that animal. That right is to that water, to the tree, to the land. And it is of all nations that are sometimes scavengers, that are sometimes overtakers. And it's not just of the people who are asked to steward that. We all are human, and it is all in existence to understand what is ours and what's not. And how do we actually balance, bring harmony into a space? Because sometimes the beavers do overtake, and that we need to have that balance, because then there's forests for animals that will not have shelter. Birds that when they migrate back, they will not have the trees where they've nested, and to have their own journeys to create more. So there's understanding that balance. So watching what are trapping and what's sustainable harvest. So what do you see that is trapping you or people or your space, your energy, versus what's sacred and sustainable harvest? Growing up as a trapper and a butcher and a farmer, these things are very ingrained in my soul. These things are what I watch in all humanity, because a lot of people don't understand what it takes to lose a life. They gamble and they play, thinking they'll have another day. But it is important to understand, when we are given a divine gifted mission and purpose, that you have to be sacred and learn how to do that. You might screw up on a couple of pellets, on a couple of decisions, a couple of jobs, and not know how to actually really honor that, and that's fine. That is why we are gifted the learning, the teachings. We all have to apprentice in something. But as you start to become very skillful, and I struggle with people stating that they are masters or gurus in things, because truthfully, yes, you can have very strong abilities to do something, but there's always a lack. There's always an Achilles heel in a master and in a guru, because we are all human. We were not to replace God or creator. We are in action and service of it. But that is where we have to take back that responsibility to understand, what are we actually here for? And so understanding, what are people setting up as traps, or what are they just truly saying, get the fuck away from my space? Because they have to have that strength to learn that teaching so that they understand what they fully are. And you are not their parent. You are not their protector. You are not their exister and their God. They create that of you because you've been so consistent and safe in a healthy or unhealthy way. That's human existence. But that is where you must come back into understanding, is this a trap or is this a sacred harvest? The next thing is about understanding to secure the food. Now, food is also something big into what is our breath work, what is our light work, what is our stretching, what is our actual way of eating. Sometimes it's very important to be fasting at this time. A lot of people get very greedy in their fall season, early winter, because they're like, oh, I've got all the potatoes, I've got all the carrots, I've got all the corn, I've got all the meat, we had a good hunting season, and we eat. But then when it comes to February, to about April, sometimes our winters will last. That is a long journey to try and get out of if we don't have our proper rations. So sometimes the hunger starts to spark your spring, starts to make you realize, oh shit, I needed to do a better job preparing and maintaining that. So it's important to understand, as you're going through this, it's also to find the brightness in the darkness. And ritual is very key for your winters. It's where you get to speak to your higher above, to listen to your ancestors, to hear the stories. Now, a lot of teachings happen in the winter time. So if you are finding yourself to being very curious Georges, running around and starting to find more information and skills and abilities, this is a very key time for a lot of people learning the craft. But it's also understanding to make sure that you respect that the people that have offered that story. So knowing how to give some sort of love or sacred gift, or just a piece of you that really is saying, hey, this is how I share into the world. So maybe it's a nice pair of earrings, maybe it's a nice pair of sweaters or shirts or a scarf, maybe it's home baked goods. It's different things that are very important, that as you're sharing your teachings and your gifts and your talents in this time, it's giving a bit of a piece of you so that person can give that a piece of them to you. So it has to have healthy exchange as you're maybe getting geared into more teachings and awareness and guidance through people at this time. The biggest thing too is to understand that all of your work is frequency. So stop struggling about money. Stop struggling about if I'm going to make it or it's going to be out of greed. You need to know that everything that you are not listening to your soul is causing you to be stagnant and delayed. So if you do not give this ventilation or life, breath back into it, it's going to constantly feel very septic and stinky by springtime. Shit gets frozen in the moment, but as soon as that spring thaw comes out, don't call me crying. why does it smell so bad? So that is what I have for my notes. But the big thing I'd like all of you to go on a piece of paper is I want you to draw a hut. Okay? And it could be a whole page of it or a big one. And what I'd like you to do is have the abilities to really know what are you filling up in your hut, your lodge. Because these are your four walls. And this isn't something that you have to have done right now, but really understanding, like, what have you been placing in there? Now, let's see here. I will see if I can do something fun. Mr. Brody, can you help me share? Yeah. I just want to Google. Yeah. So, as the beavers have created their space, it's really important about how were you set up. The beavers have a lot of things that they are teaching, that they must have the abilities that the water is deep enough so that they don't lose out, like I was saying, this venting hole here. This creates that block. So when they come into here, that's why they dam up the water, so that they make sure that they're protecting their entrance. Okay? So sometimes you need to have our boundaries in order for us to actually have the ability to have enough sustaining fluid and connection so that we have what we are able to protect in our hut or our lodge. Now, a lot of the women's job is inside is to actually decorate. She's busy building and storing and knowing how big, how small. The men are bringing the heavy logs and the differences into it. And that's where, as again, it's important that we are teaching these cycles so people understand how to actually do that work equally in that. Hopefully that helps and makes some sense for everybody. And sometimes they will have double the entrances, but it's again, it's knowing how much are you going to be in your space, because this takes a lot of work to vent and have the abilities to have that breathing and those actions and making sure that everything's going to be safe and secured. But are you trusting what that's going to look like? So again, it's determining on how much you think it takes to get this dealt with. And that's where it's constant. So when everybody's like, oh, I'm tired of the work, I just don't want to do that anymore, that's not up to you. That's up to what you're going to actually stand for. Because this is where you sometimes have to have specific tools that are different than everybody else. Because you might need a bigger, stronger head, shoulders, knees, or toes to process your journey, your decisions. So really respecting what your body can physically do and knowing how to properly repair and take care of what your body was gifted in this lifetime. So hopefully that makes sense to you all now. Okay. Any questions? Hearing about the beaver moon. What has been your biggest takeaway from this all?
Hello. I like your story about the beaver. I love beavers.
Hmm.
And when I was at Rock Lake and walking around the lake, it looked like there was definitely evidence of possibly a beaver's home being started. But when Melanie and I walked a few days later, we actually came upon sort of further in the wood trails that were you could see where the beaver had pulled huge logs. These little guys are so strong and chewed through trees like this. I'd,
Mm.
I'd never seen that before. I
Mm-hmm.
was impressed.
And I think is a beautiful awareness for it because um, beavers also, where they were building here at the lodge, it's a creek that runs from the lake into the other inlets. And they always build it right before the dam and the bridge. And when the spring flood happens, maybe every year or every second year, it washes out all the beaver's work. So
Oh,
sometimes your universe, your environment that you're actually working with has bigger or different plans for you. So that's where divorces happen, bankruptcies, death, different like life altering situations that are changing your workload. Then you have to go to an environment that you actually can adapt in and then actually has more plenty there. So, yes, thank you, Anne, for sharing that about the lodge and the beavers here because they are busy. And um, if Hillary is watching this, she's laughing right now because she had a dream of a beaver and they were paddleboarding her and her son, and there was like 100-pound beaver that was floating right underneath their paddleboard.
oh,
And he was like, we call those the redneck sharks out here. Those are what the beavers are, with their big teeth and their big tails. So yeah, it's amazing what the power of that animal, and it glides like silent. They didn't even hear it coming underneath their paddle boards.
oh, that's lovely. That's really lovely.
So thank you for sharing that, Anne.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any thoughts or experiences about what they are feeling about this moon?
Okay, is my mic off? Can you hear me?
You're good.
Okay. Um, I feel like for us, uh, the universe is really trying to tell me to like we need to do our change, like get rid of the business. Like this week our new truck broke down again. Like it's only a couple of years old and it has more breakdowns than our old ones. And we had to use the old one again. And I'm like, what's the universe trying to tell us? Like, we need to get rid of this. We need to move on. I don't want to deal with this anymore. So we got some, like work to do to move to the next step, I guess. And I'm wanting to learn new things. Like you said, you're talking about crafting and stuff like that. Like I'm in the mood for doing that and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm ready for change.
Mm-hmm. So, another thing when we talk about ritual and ceremony is also knowing about how to offer properly. So, that you're saying that you're done, but you're constantly doing the same actions. You're getting up for work, you're still booking clients,
Yes.
you're still doing those. You need
Yeah.
to say that the doors are closed at the date that you ask for.
Yeah.
No more
I know.
clients, no more nothing, because you're still feeding that dream, that existence, that energy. And so you have to know that you saved up enough and that
Yeah.
you will have enough for what you need to do.
I know. I told Lori that.
Yeah.
We need to be done like December 31st. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, we have some clients in January. I'm like, we could still do them in December. We didn't book work for like December 22nd to January 1st or whatever. I said, just put them in there. Like, I'm just, yeah, we need to say we're January 1st or something.
Because again, it's just like the beavers with their dams being washed out. Your truck is breaking down because it's saying no, no more
Yeah,
miles, no more usage, no more anything because you're getting too distracted. So it's a moving target for somebody to actually know you're viable and you're alive.
yeah,
So that's where it might not be just always this layer of like breakdowns. It could be accidents, it could be backslips, it could be different things that our world will fucking tell you enough is enough. So you need to be listening and paying attention because the gentle nudges are the major forces that say enough.
yeah. Yeah, and this week Lori would just be walking, all of a sudden his hip would give out and he had a hard time walking. I'm like, see, you can't do this anymore. You're gonna break down yourself. Like,
Yeah, we're very old models eventually. We're all starting to realize how old we're
right?
starting to get. Hmm.
And I told him, I'm like, we're gonna be 50 right away, and we only have like 10 more years of good work here, and I don't want to waste it doing something I don't want to do anymore. I want to do 10 years of work of what I want to do.
Yeah.
So,
So respect that, yes, your bank accounts can dwindle and go lower this winter, but truthfully, are you really going to die and are you going to bankrupt or do you actually have enough of what you need? Maybe we're eating up the whole pantry worth of food in the deep freezes because we're moving and we're changing. So it's just like getting out of those different energies and just knowing that this
yeah,
is the celebration and that's the end.
yeah. Hmm.
So thank you for sharing that.
How do I shut this off?
I can do it for you.
I'm throwing in my 2 cents about age. I am not old. I feel younger than you, Shanice.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I feel the motherliness of you. But I am not old and I do not feel old. And 60 or what anywhere's around there, that's not old. I mean, 60 is like that's a major great time in your life. I want people to know that.
Right? And that's
Yeah.
sometimes what your tale is there meant to be, Anne, is that you're teaching other people that your souls are old after the baggage and the damage you have put your shit through. But when you see Anne and that existence of just grace and happiness, and when Tara was saying her red dress that she wore today, you know, those things, like you can do all of that. But that's because you're making a choice to end the shit. You're making the choice not to be drained and forgotten and weathered into things that are there. And that's where Anne is a prime example of being a student in the older ages that we all think that are ancient and decrepit and we're not going to do anything, when they're actually the bigger gifts and expansions of what we actually can give and do. So it's about knowing what is longevity in your world and your existence.
Yeah.
Thanks for your two
Okay.
cents, Anne.
I'm not old.
She's just aging like fine wine, as we say.
I think I feel old because I'm doing something I don't want to do. So it's like making me feel old. If I was doing something that I love, it would make me feel young.
Mm-hmm. 1000%.
Yeah.
Cindy?
Oh, well, I'm tired. That's how I feel on this moon. But yeah, today was a good day for me. I shared in the Rise page there. I finally sent the email telling my boss that I won't be back. And well, I mean, technically I have to go back, but just to wind things up, right? But I almost didn't do it because I was second guessing. Like last night, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do it. And it's done. Like I'm tired of second guessing myself and going around and around and around and thinking, oh, well, maybe I'm supposed to be doing this with this job. And Um, I felt like the universe gave me another gentle nudge today because we were messaging about some other thing, and that was I was like, what? And that was and then I'm like, no, okay, I'm done. Like, this is my nudge that this is no longer for me. And yeah, it was scary. It wasn't an easy thing to write, but once I sent it, it just felt freer,
Mm.
right? And now it's like, "Ooh, okay, so now what?" But I'm just gonna trust in the process. And then Barry tonight got a call from the guy who's interested in our land, and I didn't hear the whole conversation, but I was like, so funny. I released this thing that's holding me down, and maybe we're making some progress in the sale of the land, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like Tara, you guys keep feeding into the shit show that you don't want to exist in, and guess what? We'll fucking keep stuffing that teddy bear full of whatever stuff you'll fucking fill up. And again, that's just a constant theme that everybody needs to take accountability with, and that's like the big thing about this moon is about your authentic stance. What are you actually showing up with, and not just being like, well, they said that this was this and that was that. No, it's about accountability. Bob said that you said this was it. I am taking it, not, I don't give a shit what Bob says, but I'm asking, what are you then not speaking to me so we can have communication and clarity? And then it goes into the work. Okay, so I see that these orders and these jobs and these things aren't done. So why is it always left for me to clean it up? What did I teach you all? Very shitty bad behaviors in order for you to have the access into that. And we all need clean up. This is freaking go time where you're cleaning up the shit that needs to be dealt with so that you can craft and make the new things actually fun and exciting. But the biggest thing is that you can't come back and relabel everybody as the bad guy after this is all done. You have to see them, you release it, you forgive it, and you say thank you and I love you, and you move on.
Hmm.
It's just giving that release so that this can actually have space for something else to teach it. And that's why some people did not continue with Rise for this now guidance and this compass. They are looking for something different, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that that's what this moon was about. So I guess maybe it was meant to happen today.
Always is. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Cindy.
Thanks.
Em or Katrina, which one? Whoever feels called, if you have anything to share.
Yeah, I can share really quickly. I'm just hearing and listening to you guys talk, and it's just the same theme as you guys. Like, I'm just in this place of everything's pointing to release this, Monday to Thursday, 9 to 5. And I feel like in my heart of hearts and everything that's been going on, that it's just gonna boom after that. But it's that taking that leap, right? It's taking that leap and how scary and the unknown. You don't know if you're gonna live or die. You don't know if you're gonna succeed or fail. Like, it's about taking that leap. And it's like the Cindy's share was like, okay, just do it. If you fail, you fail. Like, you're not gonna die physically, but it would be a chance at doing something that, even with talking about age, I'm like, okay, like, I'm in my 30s, like, let's just do everything you want to do before, we're not here anymore, which isn't a long time, right? So I was just writing down something you had said, Shanice, on like you need to release in order to make room for what's meant to be there. And I'm there, and hopefully my goal is within the month to just dive in. Yeah.
Beautiful. And
Thank
that's where the next
you.
full moon is December 15th. So, exactly like you said, Em, it's one more month, and that is like
Yeah.
right before winter solstice. So, it's just these teachings, why we share this. I could give a fuck if I ever shared all of these things. You think I got every 2 hours that I want to share on every month of that? I could do other things with my life if I was greedy, if I was stubborn, if I was just always wanting to take it for myself. But I know that I'm here to help steward. And it's not going to be the cleanest and the funniest and the, most, impactful or the changing ways that everybody thinks it needs to be dealt with. But if it's consistent, I just keep building these lodges because we are sitting now in that lodge. We are sitting in that beaver hut that we did receive with having Rock Lake Earth Lodge because we did the tail slaps, we did the work to get there, and now you have to deal with the things of maintenance and keeping that up. And sometimes it wasn't what we thought. We thought we would open up the doors every moon circle, we'd have this place packed every full moon, and every journey and every teaching and every ceremony would be happening here. Yeah, no, that didn't fucking plan out that way. But it's because you have to exist in that awareness, and it's sometimes cleaning up what other people left behind. And you have to take that with a grain of salt and patience because you know what you dived into. Because if you weren't stubborn and if you were patient, you would actually have something that was really maybe more set to it. And that's what we're thankful for because this lodge was turnkey. Other places was a fucking uphill climb. So it's just respecting. Sometimes you do need a little bit more time. Yes, you're itching to get the hell out of Dodge, but it's knowing that that's what's really asking. And then there's something that is right behind the corner being like, holy shit, that is what I've been waiting for. So thank you for sharing that, Em. All right. Katrina, are you there? If you feel like sharing anything. Or if you can't, you can just type anything in the chat if you can. So again, anybody, when we are going through these new beginnings, is important to just really discover and realize what is available moving forward, and just knowing that this difference can be something very sacred. So thank you. Oh, honey. Okay, so she just said that she is just bawling here, trying to figure out when the right time is. So the biggest thing, just to share on just a very gentle note, on her journey is just choosing how to work through a relationship. So it's sometimes these things that we struggle because sometimes the people that we said that we trust, that is to provide, is not available to provide the way that we maybe made promises or commitments and vows to. So it's knowing how to navigate those journeys and those existence. And if you wanted to share anything else typing, we're here. Because this is not easy. The only reason why I get to sit in a chair in somewheres that it's safe is because I've sat in many other places that were not. And it takes time to just know why did it have to happen this way. Em's just like, holla. And honestly, if I have any kind of from my heart advice with it, it is when it is the darkest and scariest and you just sit there in the silence, and it's almost like going into a cold plunge or speaking at a conference or, you know, doing something that is just so that could freeze your soul in a second. Sometimes it is just everything that you need to do, and that release and that gasp of just knowing that that needed to be gone and dealt with, to what you get to feel after it. I literally, when I moved away from the farm, I would triple, almost 9 times in a night, check my door to see if I locked it and see if I was going to be safe or if my dad was going to show up, and find out where I've been living because somebody told them, or he saw somebody told him on Facebook or whatever, right? It was always this fear factor. And until I just finally, like, literally, it was the analogy of just leaving my door open. It was just to show that it doesn't matter if he knew where I lived or what I did. It was that I am choosing what I need to do. And that's his own actions and his own reflections of what he struggles with. It has nothing to do with my story anymore. After leaving the oil patch, I thought I had no identity left. I was Shanice Biddleluck, Camo's consultant and contractor. I was known across provinces. I was asked to be a teacher for weed identification and pesticide application. I would have been making $100 an hour, doing all these things. It was bougie. It was everything you needed. But my soul knew I wasn't here to kill the planet. I was here to reclaim the planet. But it was learning how to reclaim it in a very fucking different way. But I needed all those tools in order for me to understand and identify that. And it was years. I did not claim Shanice's niches. When I was still Shanice's niches, there were still days I was looking at oil patch consulting jobs, looking at contracts in my early years of it, thinking I'm just saying this shit so somebody else can fucking figure it out, and I'll just go back to my old ways and not have shitty contracts. And then it was finally, I want to say like 3 or 4 years in, that finally came in and said, I am done with the bullshit, and I am not here to exist in that struggle and that pain anymore. And I just said, why am I going to throw away something that has been providing, protecting, and nourishing such a gift in my soul? Why am I just going to throw this away because it doesn't look good societally? Nobody thought Shanice would be some ooga booga witch or some prairie popper who does readings and all these other bullshits. Somebody who just preaches on things that is, telling them to cry over dead animals or rituals or things like that. They didn't understand that. They didn't think or want to hear that there was a different expansion to it. But everything that I do was just like literally what Creator was teaching me to be. I didn't have a choice. I was asked, and I chose that way earlier in my soul existence to do this. So why am I now being blinded by environment and a light to just keep shutting myself down and being in the shadows of what really needs to exist? Because what you resist will persist. If you don't think it's going to get worse, it will get worse. And we just have to respect that you are being asked for something greater. And I had the hardest fucking road rash lessons through all these years. And that's where then I had to gift and say, I respect Shanice's niches, but it is now time to understand that this is not Shanice who takes the show over this. That I am here as a tour guide of the niche nation. And the niche nation is just not Shanice. This is of all teachings and all walks and all nations and all cultures. So that we can have these talks, that we can help others understand this navigation. And that is why Brody and I and a couple of other people have been sitting with this, because we thought we would help others on their journeys. We thought it was going to be other people's, networks and platforms and teachings and aspects and trainings, and we thought it was going to be through that. And we really have sat with it lately and have been working on that reflection and knowing that this is what we will be providing this next month. And now, after all these years, we have something tangibly that is not just a riddle, or it's just not when somebody figures it out that they'll dive through Shanice's Rat Race series, that we will now have step by step, analytical, but also spiritual gifts and challenges, so that people then know where they can go and have actions and a guide map so that they can see what that looks like. Because it has taken all these years to body unwind, mind unwind, soul unwind, and character unwind of what the hell are we actually here, and deal with our mental unwind so that we knew what we are here to offer. And it's taken all of these years, officially next year, 10 years, that I have been doing this work in the light. So it sometimes is just a journey, but it's also sometimes the biggest gift and the biggest struggle. And I could have done this 5 years ago. I could have licked it up, cleaned it up, dealt with my act, and did the trainings and did the things that I really wanted and all these different things and didn't make excuses, but I didn't, because I wanted to learn deeper in those roots. I wanted more expansion on why do we make those choices? Why do we have those funnels? Why do we create this? So that I knew that when I would speak a prophecy or a guidance or just offering of my wisdom, that it wasn't just knowledge. It's that I actually walked through those journeys of hell. So when I say something to somebody or I do something with somebody, it's not just because I sugarcoat it and I just kind of figured it out half-assed. It's that I've been through that valley, and I am asking, if you walk with me, these are things that you must see in the journey if you choose to release that old way. And I will be patient. I can be gentle, but most of us are so wrapped up in the harshness that that's why everybody wants it to be just this chaotic learning and healing. But I am very patient and I am very gentle. It's just that you are bringing that chaos, and I just have to match what you are bringing so we can then balance it out and then extinguish what is coals versus just flaming torch fires for protection. And all of you have that gift. It's not just my medicine. We are all forged from the fires so that we have some sort of tool that is beyond what others can compare. And like we say, just because somebody can do baking, sewing, cooking, doing, helping, speaking, doesn't mean that your medicine is not valuable beyond words. You just have to come from your own taste and your own tongue. And there are as many people on this other side that are willing to hold that space. So just know that, honey, we are here to hold that space. There's many of them who have walked through the exact same thing you are going through, but just to allow yourself to know that there are times that you will second guess it and hate yourself, but you will have the abilities to know that difference sooner than later. Big hearts to you too. All right, lovely ladies and others who are watching this on replay. Note that today is one of the last days that the Niche Nation is going to be silent. We are going to be offering some very big packages and awareness teachings and courses. There are some of you that will be currently involved in these experiences as well. So please note that as we are going to be posting, if you felt this was something that is important and has been impactful, good, bad, or ugly, to let us know what has been a huge difference or change, or what did you like, or what was important about working with Shanice's Niches or the Niche Nation. And that as we start to offer these new expansions and teachings and guidances for people, that we are asking for you to equally be an advocate and to show your own lights, so that your stories and your crafts and your teachings can also be something others can know that they can do it too, because I know what is my niche and my connection. Brody knows what's his niche and his connection. And so, as more people are starting to learn that, you are also going to be having the availability to be ambassadors for that awareness and that teaching as well. So, if that is something that you're feeling called to share and to enlighten or to have a conversation as you start to see more posts coming out in this next kind of 3 weeks, then we will be honored to have that connection and that call with you. So thanks for everybody trusting us thus far. Those are just journeying with us currently, and those that are saying goodbye for now. We thank you for all of your time and your space, and that there's a very new beginning and an energy that is going to have that consistency and the space that people were asking for. So we're excited to be launching that very soon. And hopefully that gives the rest of you some sparks to ignite your own really cool creative ways and flares of what this world is needing and asking from us all too. It's about a community, and I'm honored to have all of you who have been a part of it so far, and very excited to meet many more on the path. Awesome. Well, you all have a great rest of your evening. If there's any questions or thoughts, please share, and if not, we will wrap it up for today.
I just have a cute little story to share. Lori and I went to the health food store today to get a smoothie, and there was a box full of rocks that have words on them. And I said, Kate, don't look, just put your hand in there and pick a word or like a rock. I can't remember what he picked, but I did the same thing, and my rock said gratitude, and you were saying today having massive gratitude equals abundance.
Mm-hmm.
No, there you go.
That's very
But
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing that, Tara. And that is what Creator has been asking for you to just know that you are very abundant, because you are one of the most grateful people, you and Laurier, that I have met. And it's just understanding that your time is here, but you just have to lay down the swords and just
Yeah.
walk away from the fight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or thoughts? Hello, Courtney. We are literally just wrapping up. So if you have any thoughts or shares that you'd like, you can share. But all of the teachings and stuff we'll have on the recording, so you can watch it after hours.
Yeah, sorry, I was in Peace River. That'd be great to get the recording. I didn't get the last recording of the moon call from
Okay.
last time. So yeah, I'll just watch it
Okay, perfect.
whenever you.
Yeah, and thank you so much. That was great work for you today.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel good. I feel really good. I'm excited. Yeah, haven't felt this feeling for a long time. So I've definitely moved through some kind of block.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully when you watch this moon replay, you'll see what has been really big about that. So you fit the description of what has been this moon's asking for everybody perfectly. So very well
Awesome.
done.
Yes. Yeah. I just feel so much like I'm just happier. I'm happier. I feel so much more love, and I'm playing like I'm just, yeah, with my kids. It's just amazing, and my husband. Been it's just been life changing. So
Good.
yeah.
Well, thanks for choosing a crazy journey in like month and a half, my dear.
No kidding. And I'm sure the West is gonna be another huge, I don't know. I feel like I will be going back into the shadows, but I feel like it'll be easier this time for me. So I won't be so lost, like I felt a lost feeling.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Wow. Thanks for being persistent and consistent and just like working through those layers. So thank you all for doing that.
Yeah. Thank you, Shanice, for everything.
You're very welcome, my dear. Doesn't happen without y'all. I'm just here spewing off hot air, so if anybody catches fire on it, then that works pretty damn well. All right, any other thoughts or questions or comments right before we leave?
Just excited to see what this next month brings.
Perfect. Very well done, Cindy, because that is a lot of commitment as well. So I know we're a mixed bag of everybody's journeys so far, so just trusting that you all deserve to have some very big things that 2025 is willing to offer. And I'm very excited to share what our year of Reclaim has really honored and set foot for us to know what the hell we're doing for next year.
Awesome.
Amazing. Okay, lovely souls. Take care. Have a great evening and take some nice needed baths. Get into that connection to water and connecting into the wood and the energy that you can. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.